Hey, good morning. This is our last section in Unit 3, and it's going to be the compound statements and their connections. And again, what I did, I tried to write out some of those statements because that was part of the lesson. So if you need to pause while and just catch up, I'm going to try and do that so that it doesn't take quite so long and you don't have to watch me write out the statements. So we're going to introduce some of the simple and compound statements will have and, or, if and then if and only if. And so we're going to add those to our objectives that we're trying to cover. I would suggest, like on the last one I suggested looking at that chart, you're going to need to know a few symbols. And again, for your test, you need to have that on the sheet of paper that you have. Make sure you write those down because it will matter in this case that this little tent looking thing is going to be an and. The upside down one is going to be then the or. But when we translate English statements to symbolic form, we also, remember, we talked about letting a variable represent just a statement. And a statement, remember, can be either true or false. It just has to be, it cannot have multiple answers. So it is after 5 p.m. and they are working means that those are both statements. And so they assigned P to it is after 5 p.m. They assigned Q to they are working. And so if I'm going to write a compound statement before, and it says it is after 5 p.m. and they are working, would be in the way of P and then the tent looking thing, Q. And that would be the symbolic form of that same statement. If they are not working, remember we're going to have the little schwa in front of it. And so the symbolic symbol of it is after 5 and they are not working would be P, tent, and then schwa, Q. The next one, the if-then statements are going to be where, like a diagram can be written and expressed. We can look at this relationship in 3 different ways. In other words, all poets are going to be writers because poets is a subset within the writers. There are no poets that are not writers. That would be true if it was in here. There were also, if a person is a poet, then a person is going to be also a writer. And that would be just 3 ways that we could write that same statement. The compound statement, if P then Q, is represented by the arrow that goes to the right. So, and this is called a conditional statement. If you have a statement before the symbol, it is called the antecedent, and if you have the statement that is after is called the consequent. So in other words, if I have an example where P is a person is a father, the Q is the male, the person is a male. So writing this out as if a person is a father, then a person is a male is if P, then Q. Then again, P would be your antecedent and Q is going to be your consequent. Another chart is also, that they've given us would kind of also help changing from the symbolic to the English, and then also working where they have identified P and Q. Let's go ahead and just jump into some of the questions and the problems that you're going to have. So in this case, if P is going to represent a bill that receives the majority approval, and Q is going to be a statement, the bill becomes a law. Write the compound statement below in the symbolic form. In other words, I'm going to go ahead and write it in this form. Remember, I'm going to identify P. It says the bill is received by a majority of approval. So this first part right here is going to be P. And then the second part is going to be a law. So that's going to be Q. And notice that this time I'm going to have the or is going to indicate the V symbol, or not the upside. Remember, the upside down is and. The other way around, which looks more like a V, is going to be or. You could also, in this case, write it. In this case, the bill receives approval of a majority of approval, or the bill does not become a law. Remember, the not then is going to be the only thing we need to add, and we're going to add the schwa in front of the Q. The next thing, we can also have the negative. If a person is not a male, then the person is not a father. Then remember, we're going to replace the then with the arrow. We're also going to have a negative because we have a negative in both of these, so it's negative P and negative Q, so it's schwa Q, arrow, schwa P would be the symbolic form of that. In this case, we have biconditional statements. Statements are conditionals that are true if the statement is true when the antecedent and the consequent are reversed. So, in other words, remember, if I look at if a person is a father, then the person is male is true. But if a person is a male, if we switch those, then a person is not a father is not necessarily true. So this was going to be a way that you're not going to be able to write that as a biconditional. So if I have a person is an unmarried male, then the person is a bachelor. If I switch those, a person is a bachelor, then the person is an unmarried male is also true. That means I can write it as if and only if. And if and only if is written with an arrow that has or a line with two arrows on both ends. It means if and only if. This is going to give some more examples of if and only if statements. So in other words, if P, if and only if Q, if a person is a bachelor, if and only if the person is an unmarried male. We could also say if P then Q and if Q then P. So you could write it and separate them that way. You could also, P is necessary and sufficient for Q. And then you could also write the same thing as Q is necessary and sufficient for P. In other words, on the sufficient ones, it says being an unmarried married male is not sufficient for being a bachelor. Keep in mind you're also having symbolic forms with negation. Conjunction is going to be the and then disjunction is going to be the V. It'd be or. You could also write nor, and we're going to show that in one of the examples that we have in just a little bit because it fits better into say and or nor or nor. The conditional is going to be the then, and then remember biconditional is going to be if and only if. So you'll be asked to write a few statements. So we're going to start off with, we identified P is going to be that if she is wealthy, and Q is going to be she is happy. So if I have the negative in front, you could start off by saying it is not true that she is wealthy and happy. You could also distribute that in and say she is not wealthy, and remember this is representing the and she is not happy. If you have just the negative in front, she is not wealthy, because we're going to add the not in front of for my P. Since she is wealthy, we're going to make it the opposite. So she is not wealthy, and then we're going to go, remember this is going to be the and, so this the and is represented, and she is happy, so we're going to keep it the same. On this one, she is not wealthy. They switched it between P and Q. So she is not wealthy, nor is she happy, because this would also be a way we could write this and put that in. The last ones are going to be where we take a statement and we write the symbolic form. So if I look at the heater is not working and the house is cold, remember P is going to represent the heater is working, where Q is going to be the house is cold. So since we've added the not, that means we're going to go the schwa in front of the P. And because we have the and is going to be the tent looking figure, or the upside down V. And then notice on the second part, it's the exact same thing. So it's going to be then and Q. So Q is didn't make it negative. The next one, the heater is working, and so that is P. So we're going to start with P, and we have the word the or, and so in this case we're going to flip that and make it a V. And then it's not cold, so we're going to look at since Q is the house is cold, it's the negative of that. So we're going to go the negative and then of Q. If we have the heaters not working, we're going to have a negative in front of our P. Then, remember, then is going to be the symbol with the line with one arrow. The house is cold. Remember, it's the same, so it's going to be then just Q. The heater is working if and only if. The only change is going to be the arrow with the line with the two arrows. But in this case, we have not cold, so that means we're going to negate the Q and in the symbolic form. We can also write it out, the symbols. So in this case, on the same ones, remember P is going to be the heater is working, and we have the symbol of and the house is not cold because we have the negative in front of the Q. In this case, this is going to be the then, so as the house is cold, then the heater is working. In other words, it's just the same as P and then Q. And this one, you could have two different choices. You could either have this, it is not the case that the heater is working, in other words, we're keeping it the same, or the house is cold, so that is P or Q, or you can also say the heater is not working, or the house is not cold. The last one, you're going to put the negatives into both of them, so the heater is not working is when we start, and then this symbol, the line, is going to be if and only if the house is not cold, and so again we're going to have the negative for the Q. All right, so quick lesson on this one. Remember, I do have a review for you on your lesson plans. I changed the route, and I'm not sure where she actually copied it. The original one had voting restrictions, and it had the numbers 23 and 24 where it talked about voting, and so those will not be part of the test, and I've also taken them off of the review, so you might just double check the review and make sure you have the right one. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me. Thank you.